Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Hardly.
Come on, Brent.
Line's good.
Got real close.
I hear high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham Scott. Alongside, as always, hello, Scott.
Sean, what's up? My window is shaking from the wind. It's so windy.
It is a very windy day here in the nation's capital, Wednesday here. And yeah, it's cold, it's windy, it's snowed twice this week. And Scott, I'm choosing to interpret this as the weather gods telling us all to just cool down, stay inside. There's nothing to come out here for. Just do your thing, everybody.
Yeah, last night I was looking at my window and I went, oh man, it looks like it started to snow. And then 30 seconds later, I looked over and you couldn't even see across the street. It was insane. And it was only that way for maybe 10 minutes, but like visibility down to less than an eighth of a mile, like insane.
Yeah, just absolute madness, though. What's going on here weather-wise across the country, really. We've seen snow at various places across the country, but then there was like some sort of, was it a high-pressure system? Scott, this is your domain, where I saw the other day it was something like 15 degrees in Moose Jaw and then minus 10 in Winnipeg or something.
Wow, that's pretty rare. Yeah.
Yeah, as the system sort of started to move across the prairies. I think that's what I saw, but hopefully everyone is as comfortable as you can be out there given the current conditions. And Scott, I'll just say off the top too, for anyone who listens to us who's from Nova Scotia, who's from that area, certainly we're all thoughts with you and horrible situation out there in Nova Scotia. So we're sending all the best. I know the whole country is rallying around, sending best vibes to the folks out there in Nova Scotia. Very tragic situation there on Sunday. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and send our love to the folks out there on the East Coast.
Yeah. Well said, Sean.
So, as we've been trying to do over the past few weeks as we transition, however awkwardly, from that, we're going to keep going with the show and hopefully give you a bit of a respite from the realities of the world as they currently sit right now. Scott, I wrote a piece today that was published over at Active History where I'm one of the editors with my buddy Aaron Boyes, and every year we do a year in review 100 years later. And we started that in 2013, and he had the idea of what if we went back into the entire 1910s decade. So over the next 4 weeks, including today, we're publishing 1910, then 11, then 12. Then we're doing a Winners at War that will correspond with the Survivor finale. And in the intro to it, I wrote that, at the end of 2019, we had in the bracket, we wrote something like the news has been bad this year. It's been a slog to get through. And then 2020 came along and was like, hold my beer. So we're going to keep doing our best to try and just give some positive content, have some fun in the best way we can in these circumstances. And Scott, since we're stuck inside, not only because of what's going on with the COVID-19, but also certainly in Ottawa here and elsewhere across the country, weather-wise, not really wanting to go outside, we decided to go through YouTube and come up with some of the games that we are particularly fond of that we think would make for good watching while you're stuck inside.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much great curling content out there. Also, thanks for the reminder to look at your piece. I do enjoy reading it every year.
Thank you.
And now I've got 3 to look forward to in the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So there you go.
Yeah, it's good stuff. They're long. It's not a 5-minute read. I'm just saying.
What else am I doing? Yeah, we went through, there's so much great curling stuff on YouTube, and a new channel popped up maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago called VHS Curling, and it's this guy who's got all these VHS tapes of old curling that he recorded and has been just uploading them. And it's awesome. There's some really fun stuff to watch. A lot of fun looks. The baggy jackets and pants and stuff, the fun hairdos that everybody's got, the mustaches and stuff. So a really sweet, fun channel to go look through. But I picked out, Sean, I feel like it's 12 things on this list. It's numbered to 11, but one of them's kind of a double, and one of them's, not a full match. But you've ranked stuff.
Yeah, I ranked. I came up with like a top 5 of things that I would sort of recommend to people. Within those 5, there's a bunch of games. So it's more than 5 games, but yeah, I did come up with the top 5.
Why don't we go through your top 5, and then afterwards, if there's anything I didn't also put on my list, we can go through that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. So I do have a bit of a recency bias here. For a few reasons. One, just my age and the things that come to mind when I think of this. So, I certainly the TV was tuned to currently when we were kids, Scott, but I don't really have that much memory of full games. So when I was trying to think of full games that I would want to go watch again, I certainly have a recency bias to that. And I've ranked them sort of differently. I'm going to start with the best, my best ranking, and then I'll just run through what I think the best would be to watch in this current circumstance. So in terms of the best quality of games that we saw for watching, my number 5, I have 3 things all put together, and those are the 2016, 2018, and 2019 Continental Cup final draws. So if you're looking for these on YouTube, in 2016 it's Nicodine versus Kevin Cooey, 18 it's Gushu versus Ulsrud, and 19 it's also Gushu versus Ulsrud. How about that? So the reason I picked these is that they're really fun. The Continental Cup's a good time, and these are great finishes. So if you remember 2016, they go into the final draw. The 2 teams are tied, and they're going across the sheets. There's, Adine and Cooey is the feature game, but they're going across the sheets as the teams get closer to that 30-point barrier. And what's great about it is it happens almost simultaneously. It's the last rock of the 8th end in the Cooey game, and he has a run back that he barely misses. Just a fraction of an inch misses, and then it immediately goes over to the mixed game where John Morris is throwing. He has to sort of rub in off one to get his points in the skin. And now I was there, Scott, and that place erupted. That was it was a live crowd all weekend, and it was an amazing crowd on the Sunday night. And that place just went nuts when John Morris made that shot, and Russ Howard is laughing because of that. It's like this in unison, just it's amazing to watch. So I have the 2016 one there. In 2018, of course, that was when they were tied 30-30 at the action, and we had a draw to the button to win between Thomas Ulsrud and Brad Gushu, and they were selected because their game took so much longer than the games. Kevin Cooey was on the ice that night, but he had been off for 20 minutes by the time that they were done, so they had those guys go out there and throw. You also had a draw to the button in the Silvana Tiranzoni Rachel Holman game that was over on the other side of the arena, because they had to draw for the last skin. So just a really exciting night there in 2018. And then in 2019, that was when the world team comes into the final draw only needing a point to win. And it took them all the way to the 8th end. And the skins, I thought it'd be over within the first 25 minutes of the draw. It took them all night, and Team North America slowly kept coming back and back and back. And even Gushu at one point just turned to the media bench and was like, I don't know what's going on. And finally, in the 8th end, you get Eve Muirhead making the shot and not really knowing. There's a 5-second beat where you're not sure if they actually got it or not, and it's super fun. And so those ones, the competition's great. In all 3 cases, the crowd is really into it, and that's going to be a theme throughout my picks for the most part. That you have live awesome crowds in it that really makes the experience great. So I have those 3 as sort of one entry. Those Continental Cup final draws, when they're good, they're a lot of fun.
Wow, there you go. Yeah, that's something I didn't put on my list at all. I didn't have any Continental Cup stuff on here. Maybe
yeah. I figured you would.
Yeah, maybe that's what you would have figured. And I remember being there too. Was 2016 the one in Vegas that I went to as well.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
there as a 50-50 seller.
Yeah. And I do remember. I couldn't remember if it was 15 or 16, but yeah, the arena gets loud, and it's just like
Really loud.
like holy cow, this is a great atmosphere, right? And they announced, I believe they announced after that they were going to Vegas for the men's worlds in 2018. I think that we kind of knew during that event, from my perspective as a volunteer, and I was thinking, oh boy, this is going to be really great to have a full week event here. People are going to be into it, and turns out maybe not so much, but yeah, I definitely remember that, the atmosphere of that arena.
Yeah, absolutely hopping. And another hidden gem in that broadcast is all the games go to the fourth end break at the same time, and in the arena, as well as on TV, they were able to do it at the same time. They showed one of Vic's essays and video essays, and this one is about a curling fan from Mexico.
Oh, yes.
Who, she moved into an apartment which had a Canadian dish, so she just stumbled on curling, watched it, and loved it, and she saved to come to the Continental Cup in Vegas, and her dream was to touch the ice, because she didn't really, which makes sense, because unless you feel it, you don't really know, like when people say it's pebbled, like what does that actually mean? So they have this moment of her, she meets Team Homan, they give her a jersey, she goes and she touches the ice, and they show that. I think it's the best video essay that Vic has ever done, to be honest. I get misty watching it, like it's so good. So it's a hidden gem in there, and because it was on TV at the same time as in the arena, once it's done, the broadcast goes to her in her seat, and she's crying, and the whole arena stands up and applauds for her. It's a beautiful moment that, it's just great. Like the last line of it where he says, most fans tomorrow, they'll be flying north, but one will be flying south. It's just, it's
Gives
so
you the
good.
feels.
It's, that's why Vic's the best.
So
I have those three as number 5. Number 4, this is another joint one. It's my last joint one, don't worry. It's the 2010 Olympic finals, the two of them.
Okay.
So Canada against Sweden, Cheryl Bernard going up against Annette Nordberg, and then on the men's side, Kevin Martin against Thomas Ulsrud. And the reason I put these two together is it might not be fair. The women's game is way better than the men's game, just as a game.
Yeah, as a game.
I don't think there's any question about that. But what's really cool about watching these on YouTube is that they're up there with no commentary. So you just get the raw broadcast, which is really cool. You can hear the players still, but you can hear that building. And again, now Scott, you were there. Talk about live buildings. Those were 2 live buildings.
That must I think it might have been the loudest building I've ever heard for a sporting event. And when you say that and curling at the same time, that's pretty crazy, right? I can imagine like the Blue Jays in 2015 when Bautista hits the home run for the bat flip, and I can imagine that would be definitely louder just because there's way more people. But 6,000 people in that tiny Olympic curling venue, and
going nuts.
Just going nuts. People started singing "O Canada," I think, in the men's final as the final rock was coming down. It was just like an incredible sporting experience. And
let me just correct, because I did watch some of this today.
Yeah.
It's during John Morris's turn. So the crowd starts singing. They're just peeling. They're up 3. It's in the 10th end. And they're just peeling away corners, and the crowd starts singing, and John Morris sort of gets up from the hack, and I think it's Hebert who says, we got time. And so he just stands back, and there's nothing going on the ice while the crowd is singing. And the camera goes to Martin, and he's kind of talking to Ulsrud, and Ulsrud is kind of smiling and taking it all in. Jules Oucher has his camera out and is taking a video of it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, I remember that, and just it was just really fun and really cool atmosphere. I don't know if I've ever gone back and watched them on video though, so this is a good reminder. And the women's game was a better game, but the loss was sort of like, it really sort of took the air out of it.
Sure.
And
but
so but still, like, silver medal's good.
Yeah, silver medal's great. And when you watch it back, I remember at the time thinking it when I watched it again today. When Cheryl Bernard lets her rock go in the 10th end, she thinks she's won, and she doesn't make the shot at jams on a hit, and she comes back and just says, why didn't that curl? Right? She threw the weight she wanted, and basically she just says, we must have the broom in the wrong spot. And then in the 11th end, it's a steal for Annette Norberg to win on a shot that, again, Cheryl Bernard does not miss by much on either of those shots, that she had to win that gold medal. But what I found really cool about this broadcast is the mics are live in between the ends. And you can hear some of the discussion. So between the 10th and the 11th, Cheryl Bernard is there, and they're talking, and she says, like, this game has been nuts. It's been super fun. Like, let's just keep playing. And it's that sort of stuff that makes this particular broadcast a lot of fun to watch.
Nice. I'll check that one out.
Yeah. So my number 3, Scott, I have the 2015 Tim Hortons Brier final between Brad Jacobs and Pat Simmons. Of course, this is the famous turnaround team of Pat Simmons, John Morris. John Morris came in skipping this team. This is the year after Kevin Cooey won the Brier with these 3 guys, and then decided to change the team. They bring in Pat Simmons, and they get Team Canada. First time a Team Canada had ever been at the Brier. They started out poorly. They made the switch to Pat Simmons, and they come in to the final against Northern Ontario, who had gone through. It only lost once during the week. Won the 1-2 game.
Defending champs, or I guess they were champs in 13.
13, yeah. Of course, they were at the Olympics
in 14.
The year before, and and they couldn't have been defending champions because they're Team Canada. Yeah, they're playing against Team Canada. So now this game starts with 4 blank ends. Okay, not great, but the second half of this game is amazing. It's just phenomenal. Especially once you get to 9, Simmons gets 3 and 9. Jacobs gets 2 and 10 to tie, and then it's that 11th end, which is nip and tuck the whole way, and Simmons has to draw to the button to win.
Yeah.
And of course he does. And I talk about this shot, I think, way more than I should on this show, but I love this shot. It's so much fun to watch.
I think his broom is still in orbit.
Yeah. Yeah, like, whenever they decide to tear down the Saddle Dome, someone's going to have to go up into the rafters and get that broom to put it in the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think Simmons inspired Jose Bautista for later that year. This is one that I've got on my list too. Absolutely great game. I remember I watched this one in Victoria with my curling teammates, Deb and Dan, at their house, and it was just like we were all kind of like, whoa, what's going on? It was like you say, the back and forth at the end of the game, just amazing shot to win. So yeah, definitely had that one.
Yeah, a super great game, and you forget too how good sometimes that Jacobs team was and is. And this is sort of the peak of them. Earlier that week they had the controversy of like tapping guys on the foot for knees on the ice and stuff. So I mean, this is where they were at probably their most polarizing, but also arguably their best following that Olympic run. So super fun to see those guys there. My number 2, Scott, again, that building was really hot for Pat Simmons. The building in this game was also just going bonkos. The 2017 Scotties final between Michelle Inglot and Rachel Homan down in St. Catharines, Ontario. This game, Scott, was phenomenal all the way through.
Yeah, this one was a really good game, and I didn't think of it to put it on my list. And now that you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was really, really, really good. And
yeah, so you had
part of it was like
go
Michelle Inglot, sort of, she moved to Manitoba, she got a new team. You hadn't heard from her in a while, coming and having this crazy week, right?
Yeah.
Where they came out of nowhere. You can never really count out of Manitoba at a national event, but you think Jennifer Jones more than you think, oh, Michelle Englot, like isn't she 50 years old? And like came to play, and so had she beaten Homan during the week?
Yeah.
Right, like twice. In the 1-2 game.
Twice,
And and so then this game happens and you're like, whoa, man. So why don't you go ahead and say what you remember?
Yeah, so just an absolutely phenomenal game. Of course, Michelle Englot starts with the hammer. You only have one blank end in the sixth. And what's cool about it is that Homan cracks a 3 in the second and then gets the force in the third. So she's up 3-2 with the hammer. But steal in 5, steal in 7. She gets the 2 in 8, steal in 9. And then that 10th end, Scott, things were going absolutely haywire for Rachel Homan and her team. Michelle Englot had the 3 set up. And Rachel Homan on her last one has to make a thin double, like a super thin double. She says to Emma Miskew, sweep it to miss it.
Right.
You know, that's how thin it was. And the intro to our show has a clip of Vic calling this. This is how much I like it.
It's can she make it for? Is that one?
Have they saved it for her?
Yes.
Yes. And then the crowd goes nuts. And it's that shot is so good. The crowd is really into this game. Rachel Homan, when she makes that shot, seems more relieved, right? She puts the broom like up over her head and is just
sort of like, yeah,
really just like, yay. But there's also a great clip too. Her dad's in the crowd, and like he can't sit during any of that 10th end, and he goes bonkos when they make the shot, and he's hopping around. It's so much fun to watch. Yeah. And then if that wasn't enough, because Michelle Englot makes her draw, gets 2. If that's not enough, we get to go to an extra end where Rachel Homan has to make a run back to win the game. It's just incredible. Yeah,
that's definitely one that I should have had on my list.
Yeah, it's an absolutely remarkable game. And I love that it went to an extra. I should say too that Pat Simmons' draw was an extra end too.
That's right.
An 11th end draw. So yeah, those two, one or the other, you could take either. I think the fact that the Scotties final has 2 sort of all-timer shots puts it ahead for me.
Right on. And can I guess where you're going with your number 1?
Please do.
Well, if you're talking about hot buildings, how much you love hot buildings.
I love hot buildings.
Are you talking about the Briar in Newfoundland?
No, I'm not. No, but that is the natural place that you would think I would go. I didn't put
building up the
I know. I know. This is the only one that didn't have a hot building on my list. But let's talk about that final, Scott, before I give my number 1, because obviously that's on your list.
Actually, no, it's not. It's not.
Oh, jeez.
I was just thinking about like, oh, you're building it up, okay. But yeah, we can talk about it. That game was so incredible in the fact that the way that Gushu's Rink started that year at the Briar, they started the game well, but they started the week like at middling. I think they were.
I believe they lost that first game on the Saturday afternoon.
I think they were 1-3 maybe, or 1-2 at least to start, and then they sort of relaxed a bit, playing at home. They felt the pressure of playing at home for sure. Built it up throughout the week and left it all out there on the ice in that final. We also have the power outage during that final.
Oh, that's right.
When there was I think it was like 80 km/h winds or 100 km/h winds, something like that.
Yeah.
The place goes dark and everybody's like, what the heck do we do? So they bring out their cell phones and everybody's sort of shining lights around and
And did they play music? Didn't the speaker system still work? And like they were still playing music and doing like a giant sing. It basically turned into a Newfoundland kitchen party.
It kind of was, yeah. And the guys went to one of the other sheets of ice and were playing sort of like shooting from the hack, trying to,
Oh yeah, like the short curling or whatever it's called.
they were like passing time doing that. It really felt very Newfoundland. And then of course the last shot when Jeff has hurt his shoulder and Mark comes out and sort of replaces him and they get him. I saw on Twitter Curling Geek wanted a comparison of how many broom strokes there were on that, and it said Brett Gallant did over 100, I think.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was just like they were giving it all there, and then the win and the party atmosphere, the crowd goes wild. Nobody slept that night. Just like a huge party.
Yeah, I think part of that too. Obviously the reaction was going to be huge if Gushue won that game, but also within that game, he got out to a lead, and then Cooey just kept coming back and coming back, and the wind was out of the sails a little bit of the crowd, and so when he makes that shot, it's not just that he won, but it's sort of this release of all the tension that had built up in that game, just the way it played out. And they just go absolutely nuts. And remember too, I believe it was a 6:30 Eastern start, so an 8 o'clock start locally, and with the delay, it was damn near midnight when he makes that shot. So it's just an incredible atmosphere. But that did not make my list.
But you're right about the tension, right? How sometimes you just need that thing to release, and then everybody feels like they can celebrate. Whereas, if it had been a final kind of like this year, where he was ahead the whole time, and there was never in doubt, you wouldn't have had that kind of atmosphere likely. And also it was Gushue's first Brier win.
Yeah,
he needed,
which is crazy
wanted to
think
win,
now.
Right? That's the only thing he hadn't won until that point. So. Anyway, we got off topic.
2017 was a good year for finals.
Yeah, for sure.
No question. But no, my number one, if I'm thinking about just pure quality curling, if I just want to sit back and watch a clinic of execution and everything that I want in a curling game, it's the 2019 Women's Worlds Final, Hasselberg and Tirinzoni. That game, it's so good. Elena Pats puts on an absolute clinic to win it, and it's one of these things, Scott, that when I think about, I said it in the best and worst of the year, like if you're trying to convince somebody to watch curling or become a curling fan, you show them this game. It's just so good. No blank ends. It's an extra end win. Hasselberg goes deep on her last one in the 11, so it's a relatively straightforward draw for Tirinzoni with Alina Pats throwing last to win the game. But it's just back and forth with, deuces back and forth, in 4 and 5, and then again in 7 and 8. Tirinzoni gets the steal in 9. It's just, it's really good. You have a pick in the 11th end on Elena Pats' shot. Silvana Tirinzoni missed a shot in, I believe it was 10, that could have changed the tide too. And so you get this thing too of Tirinzoni after it's her second one, and she's frustrated. So you also get that thing of, you see the player, she's angry, she's like looking at the sky and trying to collect herself, while Lena Pats has this look on her face of like, yeah, I got this.
Right.
Like don't even worry about it. So you get that moment too. At this, I think it's just as close to a perfect game as you can get. The only thing that would be better is if there had been people there.
Yeah. The Women's Worlds in Denmark last year in Silkeborg.
Yeah.
So they didn't exactly have a giant crowd, but you're right. That was a great game. That one made my list in a tandem with their 2018 Euro final. So they play the European final in November and then have a rematch in the World final. And as good as that World final was, the Euro final measures up. Hasselberg wins with a tough deuce in the 10th, only deuce of the game. They're fighting back and forth, and it's not like they're scoring one, on an open end kind of thing, right? It's because everybody's putting pressure on themselves. The team percentages for that game is Switzerland's at 87 and Sweden's at 91, and it's just like you say, clinics of curling. And I think we were all expecting the three-peat of this matchup at the Euros this year.
Yep.
But that game is also on my list, and that's when Eve Muirhead takes on Anna Hasselberg, and Hasselberg makes a crazy shot. I think it's a run back for the win, and Eve's like, I don't know what I could have done better. Like, okay, I guess that's you. Yeah. So those European women's teams definitely putting on a good show.
Yeah. Who's on the call for that one on the YouTube version? Is it Rona?
For the Euro?
Yeah.
I believe it is Rona. Yeah, I watched a little bit of it getting ready.
Yeah. Because that makes a difference too, right? In sort of what the broadcast team is, and in terms of rewatchability and making it fun, you want to make sure that it's a good broadcast.
Yeah.
And Rona's, I mean, it's Vic and then probably Rona.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Back, if you look at some of the old ones, like some of the old CBC ones, you get Don Duguid and.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Which aren't very good, but they're sort of a.
Duguid was good. What are you talking about?
It's sort of a different voice, right?
It's a little jarring because it's not Vic, but before Vic, Don Duguid was the voice of curling in this country.
I didn't like Don Duguid when he did Blue Jays games for a little bit. So anyway, we've got a lot of diversion, Sean, because.
Yeah, we do, because there's only one that overlaps.
Well, two.
The Simmons Jacobs and women's final.
Yeah. So
all right. So what else you got? What have I missed?
Well, Sean, yours was very, very, biased towards now. What did you call it?
Yeah. Recency bias.
Recency bias. That's the word I was looking for. And I tried to spread it out over a lot of time. So why don't I go by time?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. The 1985 Brier final is on YouTube. Pat Ryan versus Al Hackner.
Yeah.
The interesting stuff in this broadcast is obviously Hackner's shot in the 10th end is one of the all-time great shots. So that's coming. But you've also got sweet Pat Ryan and his sweet mustache.
Yeah.
You've got Al Hackner and his cool glasses. Both teams are wearing sweaters, curling sweaters.
Yeah, well, it's chilly.
But it's amazing. They're you look at there now, they're wearing spandex pants. These guys are wearing wool sweaters.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. And the other thing is there's no free guard zone.
Right.
In 1985. So in addition to it having an all-time shot, being able to watch some curling with sort of the rules are different, the style of play is very different, and the ice isn't as good. So all those things combined, it's pretty fun to watch.
But is it fun in a sort of almost cringy sense, to compare it to what we have today?
I mean, maybe, but we're like you said, we're stuck at home. Why don't we rediscover our history?
Why not? Right, and that's a CBC broadcast, right? That's a Don Duguid.
I can't remember. I watched some of it today, and I can't remember.
Okay, well, it definitely would have been a CBC broadcast.
Likely, yes. And then there was on the YouTube video, it also. The length of it is 4.5 hours, and I said, what the heck, was this a 12-end game or what? And no, the Brier final is the first half of the video, and then the second half of the video is from the 1985 Worlds, the men's Worlds. That was called the McDonald Broom, I think, the McDonald Broom, Silver Broom. What was it in Men with Brooms? It was the Golden Broom?
The Golden Broom,
yeah. So I think this one was called the Silver Broom in real life. And it was Canada versus USA, a game. So you get some bonus if you just let it go.
Nice.
So that's the oldest game that I wrote down.
Okay.
Next in chronological. So this is a cool one that I found that some of the ladies out there listening might be interested in. And this is a 1998 Men's Worlds tiebreaker game between Markku Yssel-Pavoniemi and a young Thomas Ulsrud.
Okay.
Now this game is
So what is good about this game?
So this game is cool because the score like really fluctuates a lot. It's not like somebody getting a big lead and then just riding it out. It's a lot of back and forth, especially near the end. It's pretty cool. There's tons of rocks in play. So if you like that, you'll see it. A lot of people using the hammer broom. Pretty fun.
Nice. Yeah. It's very loud.
It's pretty loud. Except Sean, like Markku Yssel-Pavoniemi was really, really, really great at curling. I believe he was a bronze medalist in the 2002 Olympics. And I don't know about 1998.
Okay, I'll look it up for you.
Yeah, look that up for me. But the way he throws the rock is insane. If go and look at it, and he's got like his broom is up in the air when he throws it, and he's just sort of like wobbling. And you're like, how is this guy so good at curling? But he is. And to be honest, he's like the last Finnish curler to be impactful at World Championships. And you wonder, like, what has happened to men's curling in Finland? I know we had the sort of Viking guys there for a couple of years in the teens here, but
right.
he sort of makes you remember, oh yeah, Finland was good at men's curling. Weird.
Right.
And
so he did not make the playoffs in 2002. Also appeared in 2006, which is where he won a silver medal.
It was the silver in 2006 because Brad Gushu beat him in the final. Yeah, I remember he medaled, but oh well. So this is a TSN broadcast. It's got Vic and Ray and Linda. So you get that going for you.
Nice.
And it's a pretty good game. So that's why I put it on here. And it's something that you wouldn't think of to watch, but for those ladies that like Thomas Ulsrud, there you go.
Hey, who doesn't love Thomas Ulsrud, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I hear about it from all of my lady friends that curl. So
I'll say UC went on in that event. Scott, did you say 97 or 98?
Yeah, 98.
So 98, he would go on to win the bronze medal in that event. So UC did that. So the bronze medal, I was incorrect, actually was Marco Yssel-Pavoniemi.
Who did I say?
You said UC, but when I said the 2006 bronze medalist, that was Marco and not UC.
Yeah, Marco.
UC.
It's his last name is Yssel-Pavoniemi.
Yeah, but there's a guy named Yssel-Pavoniemi who was on that 1998 team.
Oh my God.
I know.
Okay.
Here we go.
It's Marku.
So they were both on the 1998 team. Does not appear that UC survived to play in the Olympics in 2006.
What terrible parents would name their kid Yssel-Pavoniemi? It's like naming your kid John Johnson. Jeez.
But he taught, according to this, he taught Marku how to play, and he was a skip in the late 80s and early 90s, and then moved to third with his brother, and then moved down to second, and then in this event that you're talking about, ended up with the lead position before going to skip his own team until 2009, and has sort of been in and out of curling since then. And there you go.
Cool. Fun history lesson. Thanks.
Full update on Yssel-Pavoniemi.
Cool. All right. Next on my list, Sean, the 2003 Scott Tournament of Hearts semifinal between Suzanne Goody and Kathy Cunningham.
Okay, an East Coast special.
East Coast special. And think about this. This is the semifinal. Colleen Jones has already earned the berth into the final. We're an all Eastern Canadian like playoffs basically. I think they beat Saskatchewan or something in the
an Atlantic time zone, man. No Eastern, Mountain, Central, or Pacific
you
here.
got the Atlantic and the Newfoundland time matched up. And think about that now. Like, how crazy would it be if it was Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia in the women's side, where the three teams left? Like, pretty great.
Yeah.
So this game, Sean, I've talked about it before. I watched this live when I was in university, and I was so sad that Suzanne Goody lost. I went and got so drunk. I remember doing Irish car bombs in somebody's dorm room. So good times. And Suzanne Goody, that was her first year at the Scotties, had come in, went 11-1 in the round robin, or maybe 10-2.
10-1.
10-1, right. There's only 11 games. So was basically on fire and cruising until she got beat in the 1-2 game by Colleen Jones. Dropped to the semifinal here. Kathy Cunningham and her team played really, really well. The 10th end is fun to watch. It's sort of, can we stop her from getting one? You sort of see the nerves in Suzanne there in that 10th end. Overall, a pretty fun game to watch. You know, you could probably fast forward a little bit through some of the blanks, but a good ending to this game.
Nice, yeah. And the final of that event, if you can find that too, went to an extra.
Mm-hmm.
The Kathy Cunningham and Colleen Jones.
Yeah, Kathy Cunningham, a really, really, really good player that I don't know if a lot of people think about or remember.
No, for sure. Really solid, very solid player. And she was back in the Scotties within the last couple of years, playing.
Yeah, maybe.
If memory serves.
Maybe. Yeah, that sounds familiar. So
yeah, definitely. And I know she was included in our, certainly in my best Scotties ever. Like when we created a fantasy Scotties field. I know she was my rep from
Newfoundland. Yeah. I mean, makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, and you were right. They did beat Saskatchewan in the 3-4 game, beating Jan Becker.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Next up, we'll go one more year. The 2004 Brier final, Sean. Did you know that the Nokia Brier was coming to Halifax? And Randy Ferbey against Mark Dacey. This is the famous...
The legend against the legend killer.
The famous 3-1-3 finish. That it sort of makes you think, what the heck? How can they do this? And Mark Dacey takes down the Ferbey 4, the legendary team, with like a great last 3 ends. So even if you don't want to watch the whole game, just go and watch those last 3 ends. Pretty great.
Yeah. Randy Ferbey and his team played the first 7 ends perfectly.
Yeah.
And then just as you say, 3-1-3. It's crazy to think that you can be up 8-4 playing the 8th end of a Brier final and lose that game.
Yeah.
Even today, even in the 4-rock or the 5-rock rule, like it's hard to fathom.
And this was just after they had adopted the 4-rock rule in Canada, because I believe that was 2002. I did some research today that it had always been 4 rocks at the World Championships, and Canada adopted the 3-rock rule, I think, in '92. And so the Canadian champion would have to go and adjust to a different rule. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, imagine that. So this was like pretty soon after the 4-rock rule came into play. Maybe that had something to do with it. Not sure. Yeah. But it is available. And this was the first one that I wrote down. So not necessarily the number one thing that I would want to watch, but
the one that immediately comes to mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
And again, that would have been still, I think, another CBC broadcast.
It might have been, yeah. Next up, Sean, 2009 Men's World Final. I could only find the 10th end on YouTube. Worth watching. Yeah.
That's enough. There was one of the rewatches that I think John Collin did. I think, or maybe it was just Hebert did it on his own. I can't remember.
Hebert did one on his own, like the other day. Yeah, and I think it was this game.
Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about here. The 10th end itself is a half hour.
Yeah. And
So
listening to Ray and Vic talking about like, whoa, what's he doing? Like,
yeah.
like
I will say too, I think that is a masterclass of broadcasting for Ray, Linda, and Vic. That the conversation on Kevin Martin's first one goes so long that they know they have to interject, but they interject in very sporadic ways where it's appropriate, just to provide context and explain what exactly the discussion is in a situation where you think their natural reaction would be just let them talk, but it goes on for so long, and it's kind of muddled because the guys are kind of talking over each other at points. It's just a really, really great job of broadcasting and explaining to the viewer what is actually going on.
Yeah, you're 100% right, because if it was a lesser broadcaster, of course, they would be interjecting too much and you wouldn't be able to hear the conversation. But the conversation was what made it so entertaining and interesting. And I don't know if you've ever read John Morris's fitness book, curling fitness book. There are a lot of jokes in there about, but what were we doing in that 10th end there? And then like, whoops, like there's so many little jokes in the book about it.
Nice.
So that one is definitely in there.
As it should be.
As it should be. Yeah. So the next game in my chronological order, so 2017, I've got two in 2017. So the European men's final, Kyle Smith against Nicholas Edin.
Okay.
You might not think of this game as like something interesting, or why are you picking that, Scott? The Kyle Smith's team was great in this event here. They were the number 3 seed, but I believe like everybody was kind of tied. The reason to watch this game, Sean, is to see an epic meltdown. Kyle Smith, their team is winning after the 8th end. They're up 5-4. They lose this game 10-5. Everything falls apart. Kyle Smith is super angry. You should watch his interview with Rona after the game, because he is so mad at himself. And I remember watching this one in real time and being like, whoa, I can't believe that just happened. And like, of course, Nicholas Edin's team is very good, but like I'm looking at the percentages for the game, and the Scotland lead, Cameron Smith 94, Kyle Waddell 90, Thomas Muirhead 86, Kyle Smith 81, and
that's not bad.
No, but it was brought down to 81 in the last couple ends. So like it was just like a crazy meltdown. Sweden scored stole 4 in the 10th end. Everything went wrong. Just watch it for that, because it's worth it. Speaking of epic meltdowns, the next one I have on my list is the 2017 mixed doubles world final between Canada and Switzerland.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of epic meltdowns.
Yeah.
So
I remember where I was watching this one.
Were you at the curling club?
That was during the Perry Spiel, and there's nothing better than watching a curling meltdown at a curling club.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, right? Like
collective groans and everybody talking about how they would not have allowed that to happen. It's just amazing.
How could you do that?
Yeah.
Because Joy and Courtney basically threw a shot that gave Switzerland a chance to win. I don't think they had a chance to win before that. Maybe to tie.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So that's a good one for anybody.
Yeah. And it's a mixed doubles. It goes fast.
Yeah.
So.
And mixed doubles is one that I didn't think you'd have any mixed doubles in there, Sean. So I thought I'd put one in.
Right.
And lastly,
one other thing I will say though, they should have won the final, and I think the two of them, Carruthers and Courtney, would tell you that. If it weren't for that performance, though, to get into the final, Canada might not have been in the Olympics.
Yep.
So, we can be sort of critical a little bit of that final, but they really did yeoman's work in that event. Because remember, that was in the world mixed doubles at that point is the top 16 make the playoffs, and it's a one-game elimination.
Mm-hmm.
So, really tough circumstances for them with a lot of pressure because Canadians expect to be in the Olympics. So, should have won the final, but great job of getting there.
But great job to get there for sure. It was, that's like mixed doubles playoffs is like, whoa, it's like March Madness.
Yeah.
On ice. That's what they should call it. They should call it April awesomeness. Anyway.
Yeah.
So the last
go.
one then, Sean, that I had that we didn't share was the 2018 Olympic gold medal game for all of our American friends. If you're feeling not so patriotic nowadays for whatever reason, take some time and go back and celebrate when America was really on top of the world.
Well, I mean, once he gets the 5, though, like in terms of a game, I guess it's maybe like the 2010 Olympics.
He gets the 5 in like
us.
the 8th end, right?
Is it that late? I thought it was earlier.
No, it's not that early.
Okay.
So,
and but the last couple ends, Nicodine is just playing it out for the sake of playing it out.
Yeah. Well, because he has to. But let me look here. Let me look at this.
I'm pulling it up.
Game.
Pulling it up myself.
It's in the 8th end.
Okay. All right. I apologize.
So
all right.
they're
Yeah.
tied.
We'll go watch the whole game.
Yeah. And So USA all the way.
Yeah. Well done to John Schuster.
There you go. That's
eliminated Kevin Cooey, whatever. Yeah.
Well, U.S. they're not on top and everything, so you got to give them something every now and then to make them feel better. Oh boy. Yeah. So those are some hits for me to
Nice.
go and try.
Nice.
Maybe a little
Very
more
nice.
of a deep dive, but all good.
Yeah, very good. And Scott, there's one game though that when I was thinking about this, there's one game that for years, like every couple months, something will trigger in my head and I'll be reminded of, and I go to search to see if somebody's found it and posted it online. I have yet to find it. Maybe I'll have to do a digger dive into the VHS curling archive there, but the 2011 Scotties Tournament of Hearts Wednesday night draw between Jennifer Jones and Kathy Overton Clapham. I want that game.
Yes.
I want access to that game. If you're talking about, like, for me, I love when the crowd's into it. That crowd was firmly behind Kathy Overton Clapham. There was no reason based on record for that to be the feature game, but there was no question that was going to be the feature game. And Kathy Overton comes out and plays the game, like, just is on point the whole time. She makes a huge draw in the first end against 3 or 4, and the crowd is behind her. The other players are behind her. I think it's Andrea Crawford. Her game ends early, and their whole team sort of sits behind the scoreboard and is watching and openly cheering for Kathy Overton Clapham.
Wow.
It's an incredible atmosphere because, again, it's another one in a small building. That one was in Summerside. So a small building, it's full, and everyone's cheering for Manitoba. Vic has a great call after Kathy Overton makes an amazing shot, I think in the 8th end, where he says something like, if you're not from here, they call you an FFA. You're from far, far away. But tonight, she's an Islander or something. It's incredible. It's just amazing. So that one, that's one that I would go back and watch a lot. I think that atmosphere was great.
Very good. So the call is out. If anybody can find that one,
yeah, please send it my way.
Please post it because we're interested.
Yeah, it'll be on a loop in my house. So that's a lot of stuff to go watch here over the next however long this lasts, wherever you are, and hopefully we've set you up with some good ones. But certainly let us know what we've missed, because Scott, there's no way that we have, even though we've talked for 55 minutes, there's no way we've been thorough and we've certainly missed some good stuff out there.
Yeah, I'm interested, especially if there's any Pacific Asia games that we should watch. I hope Rocks Across the Pond can help us out with that. I know Ryan watched a lot of Japanese curling in the last couple of years. So if there's any of those great games out there, I wasn't sure enough if they were good to talk about them, but I'm sure there are some good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, hey, if there's, I know some clubs like stream and then post games. Maybe there's a good club game somewhere out there.
Ooh,
that could be fun to watch too.
That could be really fun to watch. Maybe somebody bailing.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, anything you got out there, curling content, let us know and we'll share it widely. So that'll do it for this week's episode. Thanks for joining us, everybody. As always, please do subscribe to the show wherever it is you get your podcasts. Give us the likes, ratings. Helps keep the show going and allows other people to find it. Do follow along with us on Instagram and Twitter at Game of Stones Pod, and you can email the show at gameofstonespodcast@gmail.com. And Scott, just a quick shout out to James Cormany up there in Wadsworth, Ohio. He pointed out to us in an email last week that we might have to change our intro now that Lisa Weigel is no longer on Team Homan.
Yeah, that's right.
Intro, there's the clip of Joe and Courtney yelling hardly, so we might have to change that now.
Oh boy, that's going to be a lot of work to change that. I don't know if I want to.
It's not the most appealing thing to think about. So, but thanks to James for pointing that out to us.
Right on.
And so thanks again, everybody, for listening. That'll do it this week. You like that transition, Scott? Good segue.
What, are you sneezing or something?
It's been a long show. So we'll be back with you next Wednesday, as we continue with our Wednesday publishing schedule. So in the interim, be safe, everybody, and as always, keep your brooms on the ice and don't dump that insert.
Make the final.